Hey everyone, before the episode today, I wanted us to take a moment to remember and honor those that lost their lives on 9/11 24 years ago today. Our country is going through a lot right now, so I wanted us to think about and encourage you to remember and to always honor those that tragically passed away in the horrific events at the World Trade Center on 9/11. Whether you're black, white, brown, red, or blue, at the end of the day, we are all Americans, and I want us all to come together and to never forget those lives that were affected by 9/11. Hey everyone, welcome back to the End Zone Report. I am your host, Chris Opitz, and we got a jam-packed episode for you today. We're going to go over the Week 1 reactions, along with that special Chase-O meter. Then we'll get into Fantasy Corner with a new segment, and then we'll get into the Week 2 game slate with my picks, and then we'll end with the weekly bet. A couple reminders at the top of the episode. You can watch the show every week at youtube.com/the Endzone Report. You can also listen to the audio version on Spotify. Feel free to subscribe the video, as well as follow it on Spotify. It helps the show grow a lot. And then you can also follow along on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram. I post a lot of artwork once the episodes are released, along with announcements and other fun artwork as well. Let's head into the Week 1 reaction. Well, Week 1 started off crazy, and then it got a little more crazy, but then it got very, very exciting come Sunday Night Football, and then we had a really quite interesting Monday night game as well, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. During these weekly reaction segments, I'll be giving my top 5 reactions or storylines that happened in the past week, and then we'll go over some of the major injuries that happened. And then to wrap this segment off, we will get into that glory of the Chase-O meter, where we follow that bet between Jimmy and Megan on the final ranking of Chase Brown, the running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. So wrapping, let's go through some of the major injuries that hit. Before hopping on the mic, we just got word that Brock Purdy, quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, will be missing the next 2 to 5 weeks with some form of toe turf injury. So Mac Jones will get the tap at quarterback for the next month. We also had George Kittle leave the game early, I believe in the middle of the second quarter, if I remember right, with a hamstring injury. He is now currently on injured reserve, so he will miss the next 4 games. Juwan Jennings is also banged up with a shoulder injury. So really, it's Ricky Pearsall and Christian McCaffrey. Fingers crossed Christian McCaffrey stays healthy with this giant workload that he is going to be given. But Ricky Pearsall will be the go-to guy for Mac Jones if Juwan Jennings does not play in Week 2. If he does play, I think with the injury, he could be on a snap count just to kind of preserve his health. We do have the tight end sensation that took over for Kittle. What was his name? I need to look it up. I think it's like Tungus or something. So he will be starting for George Kittle. For all of you fantasy players out there, let me confirm that for sure. I believe it was Tungus. Yep. We have Jake Tungus, backup tight end in San Francisco. So he will be getting the start. I got to imagine that he'll be quite involved with all the injuries going on in San Francisco. Some other news, injury-related. Xavier Worthy, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, will be missing some time with a shoulder injury. If you did not see that game, he collided with Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce has come out and said in numerous interviews that he regrets his actions, and that is something that a veteran player should not be doing. But we'll see what the update is on Worthy closer to game time for the Chiefs. But it sounds like he's going to be missing at least a couple of weeks, if not just this week. So we'll see what goes on there in Kansas City. I know there's a lot of buzz going on about Tyreek Hill coming back, which is very possible. I could see Tyreek Hill being a mid-season trade. I think Pittsburgh's in the mix. Kansas City, of course, is in the mix with all the injuries. So we'll keep our eyes on that Tyreek Hill storyline. He is under investigation once again for domestic violence, so we'll see how that affects any trade talks going on. Brock Bowers got banged up with a knee injury, but he seems to be all right, so he should be playing this coming week for the Las Vegas Raiders. Evan Ingram has a calf injury. We'll monitor that. Tight end for the Denver Broncos. Puka Nacua, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams, is under concussion protocol. If you did not see that game, it looked like he was bleeding out of his eye, but it was actually his forehead. So we'll monitor his progress. Chris Olave, of course, once again injured with what appears to be a chest injury. So we'll monitor that. If he is ruled out, I mean, Rashid Shaheed will be the next guy up. Juwan Jennings is going to be very, very involved, and then probably some dump-offs to Alvin Kamara. We'll see how the Saints handle these injuries against the Niner injuries this week. So I'll talk about that matchup a little bit later on today. And then Matthew Golden was injured with an ankle, but it seems that he is a full go at practice, so he will be ready for week 2. So that kind of wraps up some of the major injuries that happened in week 1. Let's get to the storylines. Number 5 is what I got on my list here. Minnesota has found their QB. J.J. McCarthy looked pretty rough at the beginning of that Monday night game, but he found his groove, and he came with a vengeance. A lot of the social media posts is that death glare, Terminator-looking face that he gave off the field. He did an incredible job. Let me pull up his stats here real quick. He had a rushing touchdown as well as a passing touchdown. Let me confirm that. So he had the 2-point conversion. He did have an interception early on in the game. He had a rushing touchdown and 2 passing touchdowns, but he only threw the ball for 140 yards. But he did end up rushing on 2 carries for 25. So he's very much using his legs. And that'll come in handy when we get to our bet later on in the episode today. That is a quick hint for you. But yes, it looks like Minnesota has found their QB of the future. Once they get more acclimated with each other, that's the thing with preseason. A lot of these starters didn't get a lot of game time in preseason, so they're still finding that chemistry with each other. But once McCarthy gets that chemistry built with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, this is going to be a very potent offense. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason should be getting more and more involved with the system. TJ Hawkinson's there as a safety blanket for McCarthy. And then once Jordan Addison gets back from suspension, that'll be another relationship that McCarthy can build on as far as weapons. So very exciting stuff coming out of Minnesota with that win over the Chicago Bears later in the game. So number 4, I have the Rodgers versus Fields saga. To give you a bit of a backstory, if you aren't familiar with this big matchup, Aaron Rodgers played for the Jets last year. Justin Fields played for the Steelers last year. Now they have flipped to where Justin Fields is the quarterback of the Jets and Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the Steelers. So this was the big game to watch, and it was very exciting. I was not expecting Rodgers to go out there and throw 4 touchdowns and over 200 and some yards. Justin Fields threw for 200 yards, rushed a bunch, and had multiple touchdowns as well. It was a very action-packed game. It was the biggest game of the week until we got to Sunday night, which I will talk about in just a few moments. But this was a very exciting time for Jets fans and Steelers fans. There was an opportunity there for Fields to win this game, but they ultimately did come up short. But this was the matchup that we didn't know we wanted, and we absolutely loved it. I know I did. It was very entertaining. The storylines, the skills behind these two quarterbacks, the up-and-coming Justin Fields, the aging, yet still potent Aaron Rodgers. He's using Metcalf a lot, Calvin Austin. Which was strange about this game, though. They used Gainwell a lot. They didn't really use Jalen Warren or the sensational rookie Caleb Johnson. So I think that running back room is very messy right now for fantasy managers out there. But I think eventually Caleb Johnson will get that opportunity to show that he can be the lead back. But they did give Jalen Warren that extension for 2 years. So we'll see how that backfield goes. But it seems like DK Metcalf is the dude. And like I said before, Pittsburgh is one of those teams that are in the mix for the Tyreek potential trade. So we'll keep an eye on the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's very, very exciting coming out of those two fan bases with this game. Number 3, put a fork in Miami. They are done. Tua looked terrible. Tyreek Hill was angry on the sideline. Jalen Waddle got banged up once again. I believe it was his shoulder. The defense is horrendous, but it's really that offense. It's just really, really disgusting. I mean, this was looking like a shutout game for most of the game. Eventually, Miami came back and scored. But it's all bad news for Miami right now. I have no faith in Tua. I think he is going to be either dropped or traded mid-season, for sure in the offseason. But I got to guarantee you that he is going to be a mid-season release. Mike McDaniels, I think, is going to be a mid-season fire coach, along with the Giants head coach, Brian Daboll. Those two organizations are just really, really messy right now. And Miami is just toast. They are toast. And it's unfortunate because Miami used to be a very exciting team to watch with the incredible and creative Mike McDaniels as head coach. You know, Tua had his issues, but he was one. If he was healthy, he was a very potent quarterback. Tyreek Hill is a freak of nature. Jalen Waddle, when he's healthy, has really awesome games. You know, the up-and-coming Devon Achane is small, but he's very powerful, explosive and powerful. So I think this team is going to get ripped down to the bone in the offseason. They're going to build around Devon Achane. They're going to get a new quarterback in the draft probably. They'll pick up some wide receivers either in the draft or during the trade market in the offseason. But yeah, this Miami team needs to be just stripped to the bone, just like the New Orleans Saints. Probably what's going to happen to the New York Giants this offseason as well once they get rid of Daboll. So those three fan bases are probably going to be fighting for that number 1 pick in the draft next year. So Miami is done. Put a fork in them. Number 2, Josh Allen proves that he is the MVP. Baltimore versus Buffalo was my game of the week, and it ended up being that game. It ended up being the game of the century pretty much. Baltimore had Buffalo on the ropes for most of the game. But then like at the 12-minute mark in the fourth quarter, Josh Allen said, "Hold my beer, guys. We are going to win this game." And the pivotal moment was that Derrick Henry fumble. That kind of sparked some life into that Buffalo offense. And Josh Allen just went to work. He went into superhero mode and threw a bunch. I've got his stats up. I'll talk about his stats in a different segment coming up because we will be talking about Josh Allen quite a bit. But that game was incredible. Biggest game of the year so far, and it might very well be. It was a 41-40 win for Buffalo, and it was just so action-packed in the fourth quarter. Baltimore pretty much dominated the entire game up until that point. I think it was like 40-20 something at the fourth quarter, and Josh Allen just threw up 20 more points in a matter of 10 minutes. So it was really, really incredible to watch Josh Allen prove that he was last year's MVP, and he'll be in talks for MVP probably the rest of his career until he starts slipping later on. He's only 29, so he's got a lot of years left in the NFL as long as his body can hold up with all that rushing that he does. So then the number 1 takeaway from this week 1 is, of course, the Spitgate. The spit take on Thursday night between Jalen Carter and Dak Prescott. So I'm going to give my opinion on this situation. I know a lot of people have their own thoughts. We've saw multiple different camera angles, different footage at different times of the game. I truly believe that Dak Prescott did instigate this spit. As you can, if you saw later on in the game, they revealed that Dak Prescott did spit. Now, granted, he'd spit on the ground, which is what you're supposed to do. But it was the smirk afterwards that gave it away. I believe he tried to get Jalen Carter to spit at him in order to get ejected and tried to win this game. Granted, they fell short. The Eagles ended up winning 24-20, so that Jalen Carter ejection didn't really matter in the end. But I truly believe that Dak Prescott did instigate it. Jalen Carter, I believe, did get fined. I think it was like $52,000 for that spit. I think the NFL is still looking into a suspension, but I think they will probably rule that a one-game suspension was already served with him being ejected very, very early on in the game. It was literally the first play of the game, and he gets ejected. So that is my take on the Spitgate of Thursday Night Football. I believe Dak Prescott did, in fact, instigate that spit in order to try to win this game, but that is just my opinion. Feel free to reach out if you agree otherwise. One last bit for the week reaction, and that is the incredible Chase-O-meter. If you did not listen to last week's episode, so the backstory behind this, we had a mock draft episode back in August where Chase Brown was taken later in the second round. My co-host, James Martins, did not like that pick. I think him and I both agree that Chase Brown should be more of a third-round pick, but someone got a little crazy, and that person is Megan, the Gridiron Goddess. Decided to take him a few spots earlier in the second round, which sparked a bet. The bet is if Chase Brown is a top 10 running back after the 2025 season, Megan, the Gridiron Goddess, will be $20 richer. If he does not, if he fall below the top 10, then Mr. James Martins will be $20 richer. So we will be keeping track of Chase Brown's stats every week with the Chase-O-meter. Week 1, not a very exciting week for Chase Brown. He had 13.1 fantasy points on the week, 48 rushing yards, and then a couple catches for 8 yards. He did score a touchdown, which saved his fantasy value this week, but he did fall to the 21st running back, so his current ranking right now is 21. So not looking so good for the Megan, the Gridiron Goddess, but it is only week 1. He's got a really good matchup this week, and I am predicting the Bengals will bounce back on offense. So we will keep track of the Chase-O-meter every week here on the show. That'll do it for the reactions of week 1. Let's head over to Fantasy Corner with a new segment. So for this week's Fantasy Corner, I have a new segment that I came up with, and that is Heroes and Villains. Each week I will pick the hero of the week for your fantasy team, and then I will also be picking the villain that probably cost you to lose your fantasy matchup of that week. So starting off first, we have the hero of the week, and that is, of course, none other than Josh Allen, the reigning MVP of the 2024 season. Josh Allen was incredible, especially at the end of the game on Sunday night. His fantasy points, depending on, now these are numbers that I pull from Sleeper, so they might differ a little bit if you are looking at ESPN or Yahoo, but these are the Sleeper numbers that I pulled off, since that is the platform that I mainly use. So fantasy points, we have 46.7 points. This is in standard scoring settings, so depending on how your league is with bonuses or some of that, it might be a little different, but this is looking at the average standard league. So he got 46 points this week, which is incredible for a quarterback. He had 33 completions for 394 passing yards, which was incredible. He had 30 rushing yards, and then he had 4 total touchdowns, 2 in the air and 2 on the ground. So he is the hero of the week, Mr. Josh Allen, quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. Next, we have the villain of the week. You could probably guess which name I am going to say because he probably caused you to get slaughtered in your matchup this week. That is A.J. Brown, wide receiver of the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith were not involved in this game whatsoever. This was the Jalen Hurts show. Saquon Barkley got his decent amount of usage, as he always does, but this was the Jalen Hurts show. I am predicting that A.J. Brown will bounce back this week against Kansas City because I think they're going to need him. Jalen Hurts is not going to be able to rush this many yards and not throw as much in every game this year. So A.J. Brown will bounce back. So if you are thinking of trading him or dropping him or whatever it is you're doing, just hold the line. Do not overreact because this is just week one weirdness happening. A.J. Brown will bounce back to his 100-plus yards and multiple touchdown games. So just hold the line. But his stats were pretty horrendous. He had 1.8 fantasy points, depending on your league scoring. He had 1 catch for 8 receiving yards and 0 touchdowns of the week. So very, very disgusting numbers. So he is the villain of the week for destroying your matchup. So that'll do it for heroes and villains this week. Let's head over to the week 2 game picks. So if you were following my picks for week 1, I did pretty good. I got 13 out of 16 correct. The 3 matches that I did get wrong was the Baltimore Ravens-Buffalo game. I ended up picking the Baltimore Ravens, which they looked really good starting, the first 3 quarters, but then Josh Allen said, nope, we are going to bust this and we are going to win this game. So I did get that one wrong. That one was tough because that was a 50-50 going into that week. So I'm not too upset for getting that one wrong. I mean, that was literally a coin toss on how that could have ended up. The one I do feel the most bad about, another 50-50 game, but I did come out on the wrong on this one, and that is the Miami Dolphins-Indianapolis Colts game. Daniel Jones came to play. He looked incredible. Jonathan Taylor was involved. Michael Pittman got his show. But Daniel Jones looks legit, and I think he's going to do very well in Indianapolis this year. Anthony Richardson's probably going to get either released or traded at some point. But I think they have something in Daniel Jones. He set an historic record in this game for sure. But I picked the Miami Dolphins. I put too much faith in Tua and Tyreek and Waddle and Devon Achane to be just a potent offense, but they just looked horrendous on offense, and they didn't look any better on defense. They could not stop Daniel Jones. It was like 30-some to 0 points for most of the game. I think Miami ended up winning or ended up coming back with like 6 points. Let me pull up that score here. I should have wrote it down, but I didn't because it was just so horrendous. I believe it was, yeah. So the Colts ended up winning 33-8. Just disgusting. So I felt really, really terrible of myself for picking Miami. I will tell you this right now. I am not picking Miami this week. They need to prove it to me before I'm going to pick them to win a game. My other one I got wrong, and I should have went with my gut on here because I was rooting for the Chargers in this game. I did pick the Kansas City Chiefs to win because I don't like betting against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They had an opportunity to win this game, but they fell short to Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. I was rooting for the Chargers. I'm very excited about the Chargers this year. Kansas City with the Rashee Rice suspension, now with the Xavier Worthy injury. He's looking at Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco and Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, who still becomes relevant again. I'm not as hyped for the Chiefs. I'm kind of burnt out on them. I think the injuries have finally caught up to them. So I think this is going to be quite a rough year for the Chiefs. But I'm very excited for the potential of the Chargers with Justin Herbert, who I think is very underrated. Ladd McConkey is a really special wide receiver for him. They've got Omarion Hampton, the explosive rookie, who is very exciting to watch. Trey Harris will hopefully get involved a little bit more, who's the rookie that they drafted this year, the wide receiver. But Quinton Johnston finally got his day in the sun with multiple touchdowns. Keenan Allen was involved, and I'm expecting him to get even more involved as the season goes on. So to get those 3 picks wrong, I feel pretty good, except for the Miami Dolphin one. I should have known better than to trust Tua, but I've learned my lesson. So those are the 3 that I got wrong this week. Let's shoot for 16 out of 16 this week. So kicking off Thursday Night Football tonight, we've got the Washington Commanders going into Lambeau Field to play the Green Bay Packers. Like I said at the top of the episode in the injury, looks like Matthew Golden is good to go. They've got Josh Jacobs. Romeo Dobbs seems pretty healthy. Jaden Reed, I think, is still banged up, but he was still heavily involved. And then we got Tucker Kraft. Jordan Love is full go at practice as well, so no injuries for him. And that defense is really incredible. They just shut down Detroit like crazy last week. So we'll see this big matchup between Jaden Daniels and Jordan Love. I have a feeling that Jaden Daniels is going to be forced to throw in this game. I don't know if he's going to be able to rush a bunch of yards against this defense. So you may have to get Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel heavily involved. Zach Ertz, the tight end. And then we'll see how that backfield holds up. Right now, I think Austin Eckler is the RB1. But we all love our Bill. So Krosky Merritt, we'll see if he can overtake at RB1 at some point this season. So my pick for this game is the Washington Commanders. The Packers put on a great show last week against Detroit, but I think I trust Jaden Daniels more than I do Jordan Love. I like the weapons more in Washington, but that Washington defense is really going to struggle against Jordan Love. I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair for Thursday night, but I am picking the Washington Commanders to win this game. Moving on to the noon slate, depending on where you are in the country. Noon, 1 o'clock. We've got 9 games this week, so there's no Friday game this week. And we only got 3, I believe, in the afternoon, so they really crammed this noon slate, which I've never understood why they do that. I don't get why they don't just split it up between the 2 time slots, but we're going to run through these real quick here. We've got Cleveland Browns going into Baltimore to face Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. We got another big division game here. I'm predicting Baltimore is just going to slaughter the Cleveland Browns. Joe Flacco put up a good fight against the Cincinnati Bengals, but that defense is horrendous. Now they're going to go up against a Super Bowl contender in John Harbaugh and the Ravens. So I think this is just going to be a humiliation for the Cleveland Browns. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe Myles Garrett causes problems for Lamar like he did for Joe Burrow last week. But I am picking Baltimore to win this game and potentially slaughter the Browns. Speaking of the Bengals, we've got the Jaguars going into Cincinnati this week. I'm predicting that the Bengals will bounce back on offense. I think Joe Burrow is going to have a really good game. I think Chase Brown is going to get heavily involved in a lot of targets. I think T. Higgins will be involved as well. Chase Brown will probably get a touchdown again, and then probably get some more rushing attempts against this Jaguars defense. But I was very impressed with the Jaguars last week. Granted, they were going against Carolina, one of the worst defenses in the league. But Travis Hunter looks legit, but it does sound like they're going to try him out on defense more. So hopefully we will get some more Brian Thomas Jr. for all you fantasy guys out there, myself included, because I do believe in Brian Thomas, and I hope he bounces back this week as far as being involved in this offense. So I am picking the Cincinnati Bengals in this game. I think that they will bounce back and show the league that they can be a Super Bowl contender with this offense. Next, we've got the New York Giants going into the Dallas Cowboys. This is another big division game, but I don't think it's going to be close. I think Dallas is going to win this game heavily. I don't believe in Brian Daboll. Russell Wilson looks horrendous. The running back room is kind of a mess right now with Scadaboo injured, so they're kind of stuck with Tyrone Chasey and Devin Singletary. You got Malik Neighbors there, but if you don't know the storyline, he was very frustrated last week with the coaching staff and this team in general. Some behind the scenes for New York, it sounds like Daboll wants Jackson Dart to start, but the organization, doesn't want to deal with Russell Wilson. So they are going to start Russell again this week. I think that is a mistake. I think Russell Wilson is toast, and he needs to be a backup for the rest of his career or just retire because he looked just terrible in that game last week against the Commanders. So I have the Dallas Cowboys winning this game against the Giants. Moving over to the NFC North, we've got the Chicago Bears going into Detroit to take on Jared Goff. Another big division game here. I'm predicting Detroit will bounce back from their humiliating beatdown from Green Bay last week. I think Dan Campbell will find a groove against this Chicago defense, and Jared Goff is just going to sling it to St. Brown and Laporta. I think Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery will pound the pavement against Chicago on the ground. And I think Caleb Williams is going to struggle against this Detroit defense, similar to how he struggled with Minnesota last week. But I do think Detroit bounces back, and I'm going to pick them in this game. I just have no hopes for Caleb in that offense right now. He has a lot to learn. He has to learn another system. Ben Johnson is still getting the ropes over here. I could see a lot of DeAndre Swift. This is kind of a revenge game for him since he was with Detroit at one point. So he could probably get heavily involved. It looks like Roma Doomsday was the guy for Caleb Williams last week. DJ Moore wasn't really involved, and neither was the rookie tight end Colston Loveland. Luther Burden is still trying to find his place on this team as well. Another rookie that they drafted this year. So I'm taking Detroit to take down the Chicago Bears in Detroit this week. Moving over to another division battle, we have the New England Patriots going into Miami to face Tua and the Dolphins. Like I said before, I am not picking the Dolphins this week. I am taking Drake May and New England in this game. I don't care that it's on the road to Miami. Tua looks horrendous. Tyreek Hill is frustrated with this team. Jalen Waddle just can't stay healthy. And really the only exciting piece of this offense is Devon Achane. But we'll see what he does against this New England defense. I'm very excited to see Vrabel's kind of ascension into this coaching staff this year. I think it's very promising that he is the head coach and he can train up Drake May to connect with Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry. And then we'll get hopefully some more Travion Henderson in this game as well, because this Miami defense is just terrible and nothing positive on the offense either. So I'm taking New England in this game for sure. Heading over to the West Coast, well, technically the South because they're in New Orleans, but we have San Francisco 49ers going into New Orleans to take on the Saints. Regardless of all the injuries that the Niners have sustaining, including Brock Purdy, I am still taking the 49ers in this game. I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be the lifeline for Mac Jones, and I think he's just going to pepper Ricky Pearsall with a bunch of targets in this game. The Saints look horrendous. I don't like that Rattler is still the starting quarterback. I know he kind of showed some spurts against Arizona last week, but I don't like the quarterback room on this team. Alvin Kamara is the only exciting piece of this offense. And then hopefully Chris Olave can stay healthy and Rashid Shaheed can still stay involved in this game. But the quarterback play on this team is really detrimental to this. And that's why I'm picking the Niners. I trust Mac Jones more than anybody else on this team. So that is my pick for this. It's going to be a gross game. I normally watch Red Zone with Scott Hansen. Shout out to him. But I don't see us getting a lot of game action from this game. It's just going to be a lot of Christian McCaffrey highlights, I think. And then maybe if they are able to take on that San Francisco defense, maybe we get an Alvin Kamara touchdown at some point in this game. But this is going to be the Christian McCaffrey show, and I'm all in on it. We got another division fight. Buffalo takes on the New York Jets. So we got Josh Allen coming off that incredible game against Baltimore, taking on Justin Fields, who had an incredible game against Pittsburgh last week. I am picking the Buffalo Bills. As much as I really want to take Justin Fields here, I don't think he can stand up to this Buffalo defense. And then Josh Allen is just a freak. He's just an alien. He's a superhero. So he's going to pick apart this Jets defense, even though it's a really good defense. I think this is going to be a challenge for Josh Allen a little bit. But I do have Baltimore ending up winning this game for sure in New York. So I'm excited for this one. This one's going to be a fun one. Then we have the Seahawks going into Pittsburgh. Sam Darnold did not look good. JSN was the guy for him, though. Cooper Kupp was not involved at all. Looked like Charbonnet got the touchdown over Kenneth Walker, which really baffles me. I don't know what's going on with that running back room, if Walker's still hurt or if they like Charbonnet more. I guess we'll see what happens in this game. But I do like the showing that Aaron Rodgers gave us. I like the rapport that he has with Metcalf already. Again, that running back room's kind of weird too with Gainwell getting a lot of the touches and Jalen Warren getting the extension but not really being involved. And then the sensational rookie that they've been raving about and Caleb Johnson just wasn't involved either. So this is two teams where their running back room is kind of messy right now. So I think this is going to be a passing game for sure. Maybe Cooper Kupp will get more involved in this game against the Steelers defense because maybe they'll lock down Jackson Smith-Njigba after his incredible performance last week. But I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this game with Aaron Rodgers doing what he does, throwing the ball, chucking it down, scoring a bunch of touchdowns. I know the Seattle Seahawks defense looked really good last week, so this will be another test for Rodgers. But if he's able to throw 300 plus yards and 4 touchdowns against the Jets defense, I can see Aaron Rodgers easily picking off of the Seahawks defense. So I've got Pittsburgh winning this at home in week 2. The final game in the noon slate, we've got the Los Angeles Rams going against the Tennessee Titans. I do have the Rams winning this on the road. I think Puka Nacua is going to be all right. I think he's going to be fine. He'll play. Stafford looks okay. But this is really a defense fight. I think the defense that Sean McVay has built is going to pick apart Cam Ward, the rookie quarterback for the Titans. So I think this is going to be another hard test. Coming off of the Denver defense and then now facing the Rams defense, it's going to be a rough month for Cam Ward. But I think eventually he will become that guy for the Titans. He showed some spurts last week against Denver. So I have some faith in Cam Ward in this system, but they got to protect him. They have to bolster that offensive line, or he's just going to be another Will Levis that is just going to crumble behind that line and get injured. So I do have the Rams taking the win in this game on Sunday for sure. Moving on to the 3 o'clock slate, we have 3 games. We've got the Denver Broncos taking on the Indianapolis Colts. This will be the true test for Daniel Jones against this Denver defense to see if he is legit and if he is the guy for Indianapolis. I do, however, have the Denver Broncos. That is my team, so of course I'm going to pick them. But still, I truly do believe that they are the better team. I think they are going to win this game. I think Bo Nix looked a little rough last week, but I think he'll bounce back. They'll find a groove with Courtland Sutton, and they're going to get J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey involved on the ground. And I think that defense will be able to stop Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor on the ground as well. So I got Denver taking this game on the road against the Colts. Moving to the South, we've got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. Panthers looked pretty rough on both sides of the ball. Defense is still horrendous, one of the worst in the leagues. Bryce Young has still got a lot to learn. He's got to get a rapport for Tech McMillan still. Chuba Hubbard was probably the most successful piece of this offense last week. I think they're going to score more points this week against that Arizona defense, but I do have Arizona taking this game and winning at home. Kyler Murray seems to be looking good. He's getting Marvin Harrison more involved. Trey McBride will always have a role in this offense. And I think James Conner is going to roll over this defense. And hint, hint, he might be part of my bet this week. So I got Arizona winning this game at home on Sunday afternoon. Then the final game in the 3 o'clock slate, we have the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. We've got a Super Bowl rematch here, multiple Super Bowl rematches. Kansas City, I've already talked about a little bit. Xavier Worthy's got the shoulder injury. He's probably going to miss this game. Rashid Rice is still suspended, so they got Travis Kelce. They've got Hollywood Brown. They got Juju Smith-Schuster. And then they got Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt on the ground. I think Mahomes is going to struggle against this Philadelphia defense. Jalen Carter should be back, so we'll see if he decides to spit on Patrick Mahomes this time. But I do have the Eagles winning this game. I think A.J. Brown is going to bounce back. I think he could easily have a 100-yard game with a touchdown. Devontae Smith could go, 6 catches for 80 yards and maybe a touchdown as well. Dallas Goedert seems to be banged up, but I think he might possibly be playing, so he'll get involved as well. And then I think Saquon Barkley is going to do what he does and just ground and pound. We're probably going to get a tush push. You can pretty much guarantee a tush push in every game, almost every game. But I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be able to rush as much as he did last week. I think he's going to be forced to throw that ball, and that's why I have A.J. Brown bouncing back. So I do have Philadelphia winning this game in Arrowhead on Sunday afternoon. Moving on to the Sunday night game, we have the Atlanta Falcons going into Minnesota to take on J.J. McCarthy in the Vikings. This is very exciting. This is another homecoming for Kirk Cousins, who is still with the team as the backup quarterback. This is going to be a fun game. You got Bijan, who is the bedrock of this offense, going up against a true test of a defense in Minnesota. But I do have Minnesota winning this game at home. I think J.J. McCarthy is the quarterback of the future for this team. I think he's going to rush a lot for this game. He's going to do what he does in the air. I could see Jefferson easily having 100-plus yards in this game and a touchdown. I think Adam Thielen's going to get more involved. T.J. Hockenson will be the blanket, the safety blanket for McCarthy if this defense ends up getting to him. But I think this is going to be the Minnesota show. I don't think they're going to struggle as much as they did in Chicago. They're at home. They have that atmosphere in U.S. Bank Stadium. So I have Minnesota taking this game. It should be fun, though. I mean, you got Bijan on offense. Drake London's banged up. It's a possibility that he might not play. Darnell Mooney is still banged up. So Michael Penix might only have Bijan and Kyle Pitts and then Ray McLeod. So I've got Minnesota just taking over this game early. And making a statement here on Sunday Night Football. So Minnesota for the win. We have a doubleheader on Monday night this week. We've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans. Bucs looked pretty rough on offense last week. Texans weren't any better either. Stroud was getting sacked left and right. That offensive line is just terrible in Houston. I think Baker Mayfield's going to bounce back and outthrow C.J. Stroud in this game. So I've got the Buccaneers winning this game on Monday night in Houston. All eyes will be on Mike Evans and the rookie sensation Emeka Egbuka, who went for 2 touchdowns last week. The Texans have a lot to figure out on offense. They've got to figure out that offensive line and protect Stroud. So I've got the Bucs winning this game on the road. Then we have another division matchup. We've got the Los Angeles Chargers going into Las Vegas on Monday night on the late slate. If you're on the East Coast, this game starts at 10. It's going to be a rough night for you guys. This game's not going to get over till like 1 in the morning. But it should be a fun game. I'm very excited for this one. Justin Herbert looks good. Ladd McConkey's involved. Omarion Hampton looks good. I've got them winning this game on the road. I think the Raiders have some stuff to figure out still. Ashton Genty is really good, but he just needs to get more involved. Geno Smith needs to get more acclimated into the system. Jacoby Myers had a really good game though last week, so I'm going to see him heavily involved, especially with Brock Bowers kind of banged up a little bit with that knee injury. But I think Brock Bowers will play in this game, and he'll be a very, very important weapon for Geno Smith against this Chargers defense. So this is going to be a really fun Monday night for sure. But I do have the Los Angeles Chargers taking it on the road in Las Vegas. So those are my game picks for week 2. My matchup of the week. This was a little tough this week, but I did pick one. And my matchup of the week is the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. So I think that's going to be the game of the week where we see J.J. McCarthy just become him. I think he is going to make a statement against Atlanta, like in front of Kirk Cousins, like, hey, I am the future of this organization. You are the past. And I think it's going to be a really fun Sunday night game. So that is my game of the week with the Minnesota Vikings. To wrap up the show, let's head over to Show Me the Money for this week's bet. So unfortunately, I did not hit on my parlay last week. I missed 2 parts of it, Justin Fields and Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to run through that bet right now, and then we'll get into this week's bet. So I did hit on the CeeDee Lamb receptions. He ended up getting 7. So thank you for that, football gods. The free pick this week was Joe Burrow's passing yards at 0.5. That, of course, that hit. But he did not do anything crazy in that game. But all he had to do was get 1 yard, and he did. I think he got like 114 yards total in that one. Like I said, Justin Fields, I busted on that one. I took the under on his passing. He ended up getting 200-plus yards in passing. I was not expecting him to throw that much. I was expecting him more to be running on the ground. But I'm glad I was proven wrong, because now I can adjust Justin Fields in future bets for his throwing. I did hit on the DK Metcalf, the 56.5 receiving yards. He ended up with, I think, like 83 receiving yards. So I felt good about that one. And then Christian McCaffrey did not get a touchdown last week, which was very shocking with the amount of workload that he got. He'll probably get one this week, but of course, since I bet on it, he didn't get one, which always happens, and I should have known better. And then I did hit on the J.J. McCarthy passing yards. His line was 225.5. I believe he only threw, I think he threw under 200. Let me pull that stats up here again. McCarthy, where are you? Yeah, I think it was like 100 and something. Passing yards was 143. So, yep, I felt good about that one. I knew he wasn't going. 225 was too rich for me. There was no way he was going to get that much. He did more damage on the ground, which, hint, hint, might be a part of my bet this week. But I felt good about that. So, unfortunately, I did not hit on this one. It would have been nice to hit. It sucks when you miss one or two of these on these bets. But I knew the touchdown one's always tough, because as soon as you bet a player to get a touchdown, of course, he's not going to get one that week. And then the Justin Fields one, I don't feel so bad either, because that just proves to me that he can throw. He's always been known as just a rushing quarterback. But that game against Pittsburgh, he's like, nope, I'm more than just running. I am passing. So that is very good confidence that he can hit 200 yards. So this week, week 2, this was a little tougher of a bet to build, but I think I feel pretty confident in this one. This one was a $5 bet, which will give me about $184, I think it was. I'll post the exact amount on social media, so watch out for that. The free pick this week is Jaden Daniels passing. It is at 0.5 passing yards, so of course I'm going to take the over. I think he's going to be forced to throw a lot against Green Bay. I am taking the over on Jamar Chase's receiving yards. Like I said in the game picks, I think he's going to bounce back. I could easily see him getting 100-plus yards in this game. His line is currently at 84.5 receiving yards, so I'm going to take the over on that. Tua Tagovailoa, taking the under on his passing yards. His line is at 231.5. 231 yards after last week's performance. Taking the under. Smashing that in. He's going to be lucky to hit 200 yards this week. But we'll see if I'm wrong. I got bad vibes on Tua. So I'm taking the under on his passing yards. I think that's an easy one for me. This one was a little more difficult, but I'm going to risk it. Travis Hunter, his current receiving yards line is 51.5 yards. I'm taking the under. With the announcement that he's going to get more involved on defense, I don't think he's going to play as many snaps on offense, or he's just going to get tired. So let me pull up his, I think he got like 40-some yards last week. Let me pull up his stat line here. I believe it was like 43 or 47, I think. So 51 is just a little too rich for me. Oh, he was only at 33 last week. So yeah, I'm taking the under on it. 51 is too rich for me. So I'm going to guess he's going to get probably the same range, 30 to 35 yards of receiving, because he's going to be focused on defense this week. I kind of hinted this already, but James Conner, his rushing yards right now is at 59.5. I'm taking the over. I think he's going to rush like crazy against the Carolina defense. He could easily get 100 yards in this game. So I'm taking the over for sure. And then J.J. McCarthy on Sunday night, his current rushing yards is at 18.5. He had 25 last week. I'm taking the over. I think he can get at least 20 rushing yards against Atlanta. So I'm going with the over. So that is my bet this week. We'll see if I can hit on this one. It's only $5. I went down a little bit just to get some confidence back in me. So this will be about $184 I'll win if I can hit on all 6 of these. So that is my bet for week 2. I will keep you updated on that. So that'll do it for this week's episode. Go ahead and watch the rest of the episodes that I put out for the show. I had a lot of fun doing that mock draft that I mentioned at the top of the episode with that Chase Brown bet going on in the background. But yeah, we'll see you all at the end of week 3 for another reaction and preview episode.